The Narrative Architect, a story about reclaiming your story. Have you ever felt trapped by your past, as if you're living out a script you didn't write? In this episode of The Mind's Blueprint, we explore the most powerful story you'll ever tell, the one you tell yourself, and reveal the psychological blueprint for rewriting your personal narrative. Julian was a renowned journalist, celebrated for his ability to uncover the most compelling stories and bring them to life. He had a knack for finding the crucial turning points in a person's life, the narrative arcs that made their journey so powerful. But in his own life, he felt stuck. He saw himself as a failure, a single defining moment from his past when he lost a major story had become the central plot of his life. Every new challenge was framed by this event, and he lived in a constant state of fear, waiting for the failure to repeat itself. He could see the potential for a great story in everyone else, Nyusietsu, but he couldn't see it in himself. His professional life was about crafting perfect narratives, but his personal life was stuck in a single, painful, and repetitive chapter. The narrative he had adopted was a heavy cloak, smothering his confidence and creativity. His retired editor, a wise old woman named Clara, watched him struggle. She had seen his talent and also the heavy weight of his narrative holding him down. One evening, as he was recounting his latest professional setback, Clara stopped him. "Julian," she said, her voice soft but firm, "you're an expert at finding the story in the data. Why can't you find the story in your own life? That one failure you keep clinging to, it's just a single sentence in an entire volume. You've blown it up into the whole book." She explained that we are all narrative architects of our own lives, constantly interpreting events and weaving them into a story that defines who we are. Our brains are wired for narrative. They crave meaning and connection. But sometimes we get stuck in a negative script, a narrative bias that prevents us from seeing the full picture. She gave him a 3-step blueprint for becoming the architect of his own story. It wasn't about forgetting the past, she said, but about editing it with a more honest and compassionate pen. If you've ever felt like your past defines your future, or that you're living a story you don't like, hit that subscribe button to join our community and discover more blueprints for your mind. Clara's blueprint was not about changing the past, but about changing the lens through which he saw it. Identify the narrative bias. Clara gave Julian a journal and told him to write down his life story, but to only focus on the raw, objective facts. He was a journalist. He had lost a story. He had continued working. He had won other awards. By removing the emotional plot and focusing on the simple data points, he began to see that losing a story was just one event, not his entire identity. It was a paragraph, not the entire chapter. Practice narrative reframing. Next, Clara encouraged him to reframe the pivotal moment. Instead of seeing the loss as a failure, what if it was a turning point, a lesson? What if it was the crucible that forged his humility and forced him to become more resilient? Julian started a new journal titled The Story of My Resilience. With each entry, he intentionally focused on how his past struggles had equipped him with strengths he never would have gained otherwise. He began to see that the most compelling narratives are always forged in the fires of adversity. Create a future narrative. Finally, Clara asked him to write the story of his life 5 years from now, with a clear narrative arc of overcoming adversity and achieving his goals. This wasn't a fantasy. It was a psychological tool to provide a clear, positive direction. By creating a compelling future narrative, he began to make choices in the present that aligned with the person he wanted to become. He started taking on bigger, more challenging stories, not to prove he wasn't a failure, but because his new narrative was about being a brave and innovative journalist. Julian began to apply these steps diligently. He stopped using the word failure and started using the word resilience. He started to see his past not as a chain holding him down, but as a foundation upon which he could build a better future. He discovered that the most beautiful part of any story isn't the absence of struggle, but the courage to write the next chapter. He found his voice and his purpose once again, and in doing so, he became the hero of his own story. You are not a passive character in your own life. You are the author. By understanding the blueprint of self-narrative, you can edit the past, take control of the present, and write the future you truly desire. Join us next time to uncover more of the mind's blueprint, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for much more.